independent of Mikel Arteta, there's people who want to be on board with Arsenal. And yes, it is a massive factor is him because they believe in him, but it's also a belief in the club being consistently in the Champions League, consistently they feel in the next 5 years when they're signing a deal that this club is going to compete. We shouldn't be, Mikel is incredibly important, but, ultimately, I see other people in this project who are incredibly important, but also committing to the project themselves. Independent, Mikel's only got a year left on his deal, so I wouldn't go. It's all or nothing. I think this team can carry on. I think realistically, what would happen is probably he'd get another bite of the cherry because I think that's just the situation we're in. But it may become untenable. I said this yesterday on a podcast. I was like, what might happen is, say we didn't, we crashed out of all the competitions or whatever, and it just all fell apart. Yeah, please no. Say that happened. I think what would happen is there'd be a lot of frustration. There would be another round of investment in the summer, and then if it was looking like it wasn't going to happen again, I think he'd probably go. But I just don't see that happening, mate. Like honestly, we look at the position we're in all four competitions. I also go back through, and I think maybe you agree or don't agree. I go through each of the last 3 seasons. I can give you quite a clear reason why it didn't happen. 22-23, we're up against treble-winning Man City with Saku's 21, Martinelli's 21, like Saliba's 22, whatever. Like those guys were not ready. That happened too early. So realistically, the first time we should have noticed, I think this team might have what it takes to win the title.
We kind of skipped the steps in that regards as well, man. Yeah,
was the back end of this time 2 years ago. That's really the first time we probably should have gone, I think this team can win a title, actually. So we've been waiting for 4 years, but actually it's like realistically, I think the team has been ready for about, the team has been ready really since the back end of that season. Last season was the injuries. It was we can't get around it. We then bought the squad to deal with that. So we're now, in my opinion, in the position where there isn't, I don't want to say there's no excuses, but there's very few situations that I can foresee, unless it's a complete freak where this season just totally derails. So I really don't think it happens. I think we win something quite serious. I think we're competing right till the end. I don't see what's happened before happening again, if that makes sense.
I don't think so as well. And it's a weird one. I know people will say it's excuses and things like that. And this is why I like having balanced fans, because you are allowed to consider the good, the bad, and the ugly, whether it's Arteta to be blamed for certain things, the whole club collectively. I do think we're kind of in get over the line mode. Now, I did say in August, I kind of don't think, it's not that it's not relevant, and I know people don't want to hear that, but I don't think Arteta's job at Arsenal is unsafe if he doesn't win a Premier, Champs, or whatever. I know people don't want to hear it. I am actually of the position that I think the gaffer's a genius, really. I believe in these players. I think it's a fair question to say, why can't we get over the line? Because I've said this to you before, I think, not to say we're the biggest and baddest, but I think we have an element of shooting ourselves in the foot. I think we're our own best friends and worst enemies. And I think we're the only ones that can stop us. I know we're not Real Madrid sort of thing. But then it leads me to say, I do think people have to consider who is on the market. I'm not saying that to keep the guy, but it's like, I might not like the house I live in, but it's all fun and games saying, I want to move. I need to find another area. I need to do something. So when you remove the buzzwords and you look at it with balance, there's an interesting debate. You mentioned Arteta's contract. Like, how do you think he's going to sign a new contract? And do you think there's a reality he could walk away? Because he is from the Pep Guardiola school of thought. Obviously, it's been 6 years. He showed massive bollocks to take this job. Obviously, you could argue if he finally gets over the line, he might walk away. Even if he signs a new deal, it's not going to be like a long-term appointment like a Wenger or Sir Alex Ferguson. So I kind of feel regardless, we need to have succession planning. But what do you say to that?
I think we forget that these guys want to win as much, if not more than us.
They're the ones living and breathing it. We're fans, but they're literally engrossed in it.
Yeah, and what it would do for Mikel Arteta's, for his next contract, for the choices for his family, for the financial side of his life, from the sporting side of his life, from a satisfaction side of his life, what it would do, he's not sat there going, I don't really care if Arsenal win or don't. I'm just gonna, he cares. I think this is the thing that some people, it's almost like,
especially when you've been so close but so far as well.
Yeah, so. But I think he also cares about the club, and I do think there would be a situation where he would just do what is best for the club. And I think if he feels he can get this team over the line, then he'll stay. I think he is that type of manager that he reads to me like that type of, similar to Pep. if Pep feels he's done with a group, he will probably go, I don't think I can stay here much longer. And I think Mikel will feel the same. But I suspect that he will feel, no, I can get more out of this group. I think realistically, and I sort of tweeted about this yesterday, I do think there's when we're talking about sort of Mikel's shortcomings, and he has them, absolutely. I do think there's an identity thing in terms of I feel like we're so good at reading opposition and snuffing out what they do and getting them to do things that they don't want to do. So we'll go to Brentford and we'll say to them, okay, we know you like doing X, Y, and Z, so we're going to stop doing that and, you know, completely bypass that phase of play, and we're going to get you in these phases of play. That means we have unbelievable control over football games and dominance, which is what Arteta's after. What I think it also does is it means our game model is played in the mirror of whoever we're playing. Because we can play any type of game. We can play a running game, a tactical game, a technical game, a chess game, whatever. Arteta's built the squad to play
And if
any
you want to
type
open
of
up
game.
against us, we can do that as well.
Any type of game we can. And, you know, if the spaces are going to be here, that's where we'll put our fullbacks or players, whatever it might be, right? I would love us to develop a more of a plan A, more of a kind of an identity of what we love doing, how
Like,
we
we're
love
here
to
now.
play.
You have to adapt to us, type of thing.
You have to adapt to it. Like it's inevitable. There's certain things that, you know, teams have done, and maybe this isn't the way football's going. I don't know, but I think the reason I mention it is I think Arteta will want to do that. I think he'll want to leave Arsenal having really set, you know, firstly one things, but also really set this is how a Mikel Arteta team plays. Because if you go back through it, it's been, you know, he's played wing backs and he's played the way we did in 23, and then it changed in 24, 25. I think he had injuries. Now it's this kind of super dominant chameleon ball that we're playing. I think he'll want to set out and define something. So I think that's another reason he might go. If he doesn't win something up, there's further to go with this team. This team has another step to take, especially with the age profiles, the contracts that are happening. So I think he'll want to stay as well.
I think you're bang on the money. And you said something which I always feel like, obviously, we've been a good club in the last 3 years. I'm kind of trying to exclude this because we haven't seen how it's panned out. I think we've been good. We've got a good manager. We've got a good team. But if we want to be great, and that great being, you know, winning prems and champs and, you know, making history, then, you know, we've got to take what we're good at and take it to another level. We've got to address the evident areas of improvement, sort of thing. And it's almost like, it would be fair to say if we want to cross into a ground that we haven't gone before, then we need to be different individuals that we've done. And I did feel going into this season, to a degree, I've seen it, especially when Calafiori and Timber were fit. Arteta has to reinvent himself. You know, I know he's not, and you'd agree as well, he's clearly not Pep Guardiola, but he's from that kind of school of thought. And I always find myself, Alex, looking at the Luis Enrique's, looking at the Pep Guardiolas, like, you know, for example, Luis Enrique getting a tune out of Donnarumma and winning the Champions League, you know, kind of reinventing Dembele as a false nine. Again, Haaland's in a bit of an anomaly, but he's not a Pep, striker on paper, in it, but he found a way to make that work. Me and you were speaking in the summer, like I wanted Ryan Cherky, and we both said, you know, he's probably not an Arteta player. But then Pep's found a way to get something out of him. So I just feel, let alone be an Arsenal manager, just in his own development, that might be something that he has to address because, you know, no disrespect to the gaffer, but you've been a manager for 6 years and you've done very good in this thing, but that's baby years as a gaffer. So there's also learning curves. And you said something which I actually wholeheartedly agree. When people say Arteta is a negative manager, he's this, he's that. Listen, no man is without faults, but it's literally not true. He's played attacking football. He's played the defensive football. He's done the chess matches. He's done the chameleon ball. I think his best strength is he's an overthinker. I think that has pros and cons. I kind of feel I'm at the stage now where we suffocate teams. We've got a good street smart defensive ethos throughout the team. You've obviously got Rice and Zubimendi in the middle. You've got the monsters in defense. Maybe we could, like you kind of said, start to insert our own game, start to do kind of things in that ilk. I feel kind of like the cons that I have about Arsenal. I don't think I've learned anything new this year. I think they're kind of carried on from last year, if it makes sense. But that's where it goes back to what we said initially, in that it's a mixed bag, in that we're not necessarily happy with our attackers in totality. There's little things we're nitpicking at. There's things we're happy about. But we've got this kind of platform. So then it leads me to ask you as well, Alex, like in your heart of hearts, with 12 Premier League games left, 11 by the time this comes out, because obviously we're playing Wolves, like, how confident are you in us getting the title over the line? Like City, 1 minute the points gap looks comfortable. Now it's 4 points. It could go even more right for us. It could go left. Where are you at with that?
Well, I think the thing we're talking about that he's built means that we can, again, maybe we don't impose ourselves as much on games as we might like to and what might want to see as fans. but it also means I think we are the best built for this Premier League right now, the version of the Premier League that it is right now, because we can go toe to toe with anyone, and there's no game state that I look at and go, "Oh, we can't play." Like City, try and transition through them, you'll cause them some problems. Villa,
take chances against them.
Every single team, I feel like you could look at them and go, as you said, there's somewhere to unpick them, and I think we can unpick ourselves if you sit in a low block and we can't quite break you down, but that's on us. So yeah, I do feel we're best placed to win this league. I also look at the fixtures that are coming out, and I think we are. Saw Scott Willis put something out a couple of days ago. I think we were 5th. Yeah, I've got it here. We were 5th on the average opponent rating. Sorry, 5th from bottom in terms of easiest. And City are sort of heading up towards 8th or 9th most difficult. So, I don't think it makes much of a difference, but I do think we've got an easier run in. We've been to a lot of the difficult away games, St James's Park, Anfield. Obviously got Etihad to come, but we've been to United away, Chelsea away, all those places.
Stamford Bridge as well. Stadium of Light even.
Yeah. And I look at the run-in, and I also think in terms of when the Champions League games are being played, the 2 legs, we've got relatively easy fixtures in between. Again, there's no easy fixture in the Premier League, but put it this way, you'd rather play Fulham at home in between a round of a 16 than City away, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
so
100%.
I think we've been relatively lucky in that sense. We're not going to win the quadruple or whatever it might be, as much as I might joke about it, but I do in the Premier League. As I keep coming back to, we're the least imperfect. City will drop points. This isn't City of last season or the season before, because the league has changed and they've changed. This is a team that will drop points. We're going to drop points.
They're the most mortal they've looked in years. Well, last year as well.
For sure. And we're going to drop points as well. And it's a question of who's the least imperfect. And I do believe we are the least imperfect. And I think we will get the Premier over the line.
And this is where, like I always say, a week is a long time in football. Like if you cast your mind back to August, early games, Arteta's got the handbrake up, we're not going to do it, this, that, and the other. Then I think the kind of period I was the most happy about, kind of like around Newcastle, because I think like Arteta found the balance. He was complicating things where you needed to complicate, keeping things simple where you needed to. The players were doing their job, subs off the bench, everything was kind of going all right. Now seasons go up and down, and I do think fans get into this trap of just thinking everything's easy. We're just going to win every game. We actually don't have that many lows. Now, granted, in the last few years, we've had that familiar feeling of not getting it over the line. And I know people who talk about fine margins. They're great. We've also benefited from that because we all know how the Premier League works. Sometimes you lose when you don't deserve to, draw when you deserve a bit more or less, and many combinations of that. So we're just ticking kind of over. And I make you right on everything you said with the gaffer. And it's a bit of it's like Arsenal's a complicated one, if I'm honest with you, man. And I agree with what you said about City. Look, you have to give City credit in it because they're not the City side they still used to be, but they're still kind of up there now. If City go and do this, I am going to look at them getting 3 points at Anfield and what that did psychologically. But there's going to be swings and turns and roundabouts and the rest of it. And Pep Guardiola and Arteta, as well as their players, they've got to earn their money now, innit? Like, this is where kind of what you touched on with the whole games coming up. This is where Arteta's got to rotate where you don't need to and rotate when you shouldn't and do all of those kind of things. So it is interesting. I do think this will be the most inconsistent race of for the title. Go on, Alex.
I was just going to say, I also on that, I think that we're anxious as fans, and that makes complete sense. I do think the play, when you've like failed enough at something that you stop really. It's like, well, I've done it already.
What's the worst that can happen? The things that they've said in the last 3 years, your bottlers and all this jazz.
It's already happened 3 times. So like, I think sometimes. I do think there have been games where we have been nervous. I think the United game, I felt the nerves, but I feel like maybe as we head towards the end of the season, we'll feel more of the opportunity. And I know that sounds a bit like coach speaking, like, oh, it's not pressure, it's an opportunity. I do feel this team will. I get the sense that they're going to just be like, look, we've already failed. We've already, if you failed your driving test 3 times, you know how that feels.
Yeah, the whole process.
You know the process. You know what it's like to get a no. You know the reasons why. You've worked on it, and you're just like, look, what have I got to lose? I can't drive right now, so I finished the test, and I can't drive again if I fail. So I don't see it as. I think some people, maybe I wasn't picking up on what you exactly were saying, but I don't think there's a psychological block here. I think it's
I
something
said that on
different.
Talksport. I agree with that. I think it's
Yeah.
easy, Alex, for them to say, "Oh, Arsenal got a mentality problem and this and that." I hear it. You can say we haven't got winners' mentality. If you want to be lazy, we haven't won. But I don't think these lot crumble. Of course, there's times where they probably are nervous. There could, for all we know, there could be games where me and you are watching. The opposition are saying nothing. We're amazing, and it's nothing to really scream and shout about. How do we know the players weren't nervous about that? If anything, I'm less concerned about nerves and more anxious around complacency. Because I say certain things like I say that to say this. It's like I think it's easy to just blame the manager. Obviously, Arteta needs to hold smoke. On end of the day, good, bad, the ugly, it's with the gaffer. But the players are the ones playing. The manager can give you all the ideas. You need to go and do it. And again, maybe the players are just saying PR and whatnot, but people say Arteta's a negative manager, which isn't true. He's an overthinker, great. But they say he's an overthinker. Noni Madueke, Saka, this one, that one. They always say the manager wants me to play with freedom. He wants us to play attacking football. He wants us to do this, that, and the other. And I'm sure because you like to read like post-game comments, like after the Wolves game, Arteta was he always protects his players, but he was very critical. And I think the Aston Villa one, when he said, I don't know why you lot are sitting back sitting back. I didn't tell you lot to do that. So I think it's a kind of double-edged sword. And what I mean about complacency is, like the United game, for example, I think we do this weird thing sometimes, especially at home, where you can tell training's been good, preparation's been good. They're G'd up in the changing room. They've come out, they're on blocks. The other team is suffocated. The first half an hour is great. We might score or we might not. And then I think we take the foot off the gas kind of thing. And then, we've seen this kind of story. So I think that's the next step for the players. But that's something that concerns me a lot more than anything around, the scaredness and whatnot. Because, they ain't got winning mentality. But these that have played at Bayern Munich, the Bernabeu, PSG, had highs and lows, been in a couple of title races, got transferable experience in their own careers. A number of our players have had to react to adversity in their lives. Saka is one. Gyökeres's whole career is another. Eze even being a professional footballer. So you could argue these things are a benefit. Now, I would say, in fact, that's something to ask you as well. Like, where do you stand on like the whole fan debate? Because a lot of people say, the fans are nervous in the atmosphere and all of that kind of stuff. Do you think it plays a part? Do you think we read too much into it? Where are you at with that?
I'm never, ever comfortable going, the fans need to do X, because I'm just like, if you put the ball in the net, we'll stop being nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think it probably does play a part, but I think people using that as like, the reason or the main reason or a big factor in the reason Arsenal aren't quite succeeding is because the fans bro, we could have no fans or just have everyone fucking on the vuvuzelas for 2 hours, like whatever, that you have to go out and do your job. Like I don't. I also think sometimes you have to accept, as the players, it's like, if I was Arteta, if that was something they genuinely felt, we can feel that these guys are nervous, and that's, boss, what should we do, bro? It's because you had 3 title races in a row you've lost. Like, what do you think? That's part of it. That's part of the next stage of it. Embrace that. If you give them something to get behind, they will be able to get behind you. So, if you're feeling all the crowd are getting on our backs here, how about pass the ball through the middle of the pitch once or twice? That might help.
It might sound a bit Roy Keane, but clamp someone, get the fans
well,
going.
Yeah, just like something, give them something. Like I think I think sometimes we can do cart before the horse with the fans, and the fans are a reaction to what's going on the pitch. Always.
Exactly. So what do you feel like, do you feel our players, it's not that they don't take initiative, but do you think we need to take initiative more? Because sometimes I feel we stick to the script. Sometimes I feel like players do a bit more. And I do think with the 12 games left, you might need to, as dumb as it sounds, the game might not be the best game, but Saka might just need to dance past the whole team and score a banger. We might just need somebody to pick out a nice pass through the middle, as you said. Like, do you think that with the players? Because I do think they're street smart, but I do think there's another level to the street smartness. Because I go with the Brentford game. Football is football, innit? You're going to give the ball away. You're going to score. You're going to concede. There's going to be transitions. You're going to give throw-ins away, yeah? I do think we defended our box well, not necessarily for the goal we conceded. We didn't win our first and second balls. But I do remember watching that game again, and I know it's easier said than done, but like a couple of times we're giving away throw-ins, which, cool, it happens. But a couple of times we're giving throw-ins away, and I'm thinking, launch it a bit further up the field, because look at where you're giving these guys these opportunities. Like, do you think there's an added kind of galvanization we need from our players, that like a bit more responsibility they've got to take, especially if you look at the crowd example we've been discussing?
Possibly. I I think I think it's certainly maybe an aspect of decisions that then they are or aren't making that's contributing to it. And I think we are generally risk averse. I think what it is it comes from largely from the structure, in my opinion, in the sense that
Mm.
Arteta's model is to get what, as I see it, is to get the ball consistently into dangerous positions as many times as possible. That's his, like, if you could say what is Arteta's, number one priority, maybe Ange's would be entertain the crowd or move the ball forward quickly, or maybe Pep's would be to control possession, whatever it is. Like, but I think Arteta's is certainly the final third, allow the ball to arrive in the most dangerous positions over and over again. And eventually the ball will go in from a probability perspective. And I can't disagree with that.
Same.
The problem,
But we
it
need
makes
that 10%
sense.
of randomness now.
Exactly. But the problem is if you keep trying to do that, the opposition can work that out. So you need some variation. I think it's simply variation. So maybe back to your point that maybe the players are part of that variation, or Arteta needs to bake in some variation. I just think there's too many waves of Arsenal attack where I know exactly what we're doing. We're trying to get the ball into those difficult places, the cutback. We're trying to put the ball into the half space because he's worked out that zone is the right place to put it in. And if you're in this situation with that player there, the game model makes sense. I do get it. But it's like if you were building a house and you had a certain amount of land and you were looking at all the building restrictions and you're like, okay, well then we need to build it to this height and we need to build it to, with these materials because that's the most cost efficient way of doing it. And we're going to get these building because I've worked with them before and they're the right guys. And I don't, and they're you go through every single detail of the house and you go, this makes complete sense. And you get to the end of it, the house is built and you're like, it's fine. It has no character because every decision I made in the house was just the correct decision.
Yeah,
It was
it's too data. And
it was
football is
like,
random as well.
yeah, the best place on a house according to Google AI is for the door is the center of the house. That makes them, because it's the best angle. It's like,
What an
yeah,
analogy.
probably. Why not put it around the back?
But it's a house, it's not a home. If that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. We built a house, not a home, and we've done it just so efficiently, and it's brilliant, and it makes it. And by the way, when you look at the road and you look at all these crumbling houses around you, it makes sense to build much stronger foundations, and it makes sense to put that tsunami blocker up, and it make whatever the.
And you can see you having a family here for 20 odd years, and grandkids completely. And the rest of it.
Structure's perfect, and it's got space to grow out the back, and you've done everything right. But the thing I love about where I live is the imperfections, is the little It's the little things.
What makes it a home?
Makes it a home. So you could spin it many different ways, but I just think we don't always allow for that. And maybe that's the players. Maybe that is the players. Maybe they're kind of too bought in. Possibly.
Yeah. You know what? You might be right, because again, using City as an example, I know we don't see it every week here, but Ryan Cherky, obviously he's bought into what Pep wants, and then Pep has to look at him and say, a bit like how we should look at Eze, is you're never going to be the most safest option. But I mentioned Cherky because I'm sure a couple of times, like, he's done that Rabona thing and he's come out and he said, oh, Pep told me not to do that. He's told me off a bit, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of what I want to see on occasion within reason from my players, because I'm sure Pep, got onto him and clipped him around the ear and said, don't do that. But I think when he's done with that, he was proud of Cherky, because that's what I bought you to be. I know who you are, kind of thing. And I don't want you to go away from that. I think we can monkey branch this conversation into another one. Yeah. Like, again, kind of what you said about it can be a bit predictable and it is perfect. Yeah. That's why, I'm not a fan necessarily of Kai Havertz in midfield, but because of the landscape and where we're at, and if me and you know what Arsenal are going to do, obviously these professional managers know what's going to happen. I think Kai Havertz in midfield, especially his link up with Gyökeres, fair enough, the sample size is tiny, but it threw a spanner in the works. Now, obviously, you would have seen Saka playing Odegaard's role in his own kind of way. Do you think that's something we've got to play on a bit? Where are you at with, because Kai's apparently going to return, like, where are you at with him, and where are you at with Saka in that Odegaard role as well?
Bro,
because it moved me.
Oh, I've been saying it for so long. Like,
it moved me, I can't lie.
It solves, mate, so many issues. The
freedom he has, man.
I think, I'm not saying it's right for every single game step, but I think part of the reason, again, you can't analyze in a vacuum. You have to consider the state that football is in and the way teams are defending and what it means, by the way, is if teams are defending more and more compact, well, what's happened this season? More goals from distance. So Villa are taking advantage of that, and we're starting to score more goals from distance.
Yeah, we're starting to shoot from outside the area.
It's our best return since 13-14. So there's always spaces. It's just where they are. And at the minute, defenses are super compact and teams are doubling, tripling up on your wingers. So, okay, you've got a bit more space in the center and you can combine more in there. And also it makes more sense for a second striker, because if the ball is going to arrive in those tight blocks, you want someone who can shoot straight, or not a connector in there. You want someone who can efficiently finish in there, because they will have some space.
Facts.
So that's why I think Havertz works. But look, I think with Saka, Odegaard contextually, a couple of seasons ago when teams were trying to build up a little bit more than they are now, or certainly against us, I think with the teams go longest against, second longest against behind Liverpool in the league. What does that mean? That means teams are building up less. Okay, what does that mean for your midfielders? Well, it means your primary presser, one of the reasons
they're trying to bypass the press,
is they're bypassing it because they know how good it is. So it means Odegaard loses a lot of the out possession benefits. So you've got to look at the in possession stuff. And in possession, he struggles to access the block. You could see, games like or stay in the block and penetrate through it.
He wants to drop deep.
Wants to drop out, exactly. So for me, Saka is someone who can ride contact, drive through blocks, Semenyo-esque, deliver, create chaos, break these blocks open. Odegaard may move them, and he might cause he might shift them around, but Saka can literally penetrate through them, and that's a different skill. And I think you take him for the touchline. I think Arteta even said it. He becomes less predictable because he's got 180 degrees more of the pitch to play with. I think him and Noni, especially on that right hand side,
very good against Wigan.
Really, really exciting. And I know people will say, "Oh, it's only Wigan." If you put, I'm telling you now, in my opinion, I hope he plays there tonight. If Saka plays in the 10 for the rest of the season, for 25 games, we will all be saying maybe behind Declan Rice, player of the season. That's how much I believe.
Bro,
I believe in him as a 10. His ability to carry, his decisiveness, his efficiency, his ability to roll contact, his decision making, everything suits it. Everything.
And that's the thing, Alex. It's like, don't get twisted. I wouldn't want Saka there on a consistent basis. I'm more just thinking of how we get this over the line. And I think people forget Saka did occupy the flanks, but the main thing is there's freedom. You can go from out to in to out. You can make them overlapping runs. You can run inside. As you said there, yeah, I think fair enough. Saka might not be the most aesthetically pleasing footballer, but I think people are quite lazy with their analysis. He's quite creative. His link-up play is quite good. He's got fantastic intelligence. Even when he was